and how federal grant funding is allocated. In New York, we receive over $50 billion in funding from the federal government each year. That money is largely determined by the population counted by the U.S. Census. The preparation for each decennial census is years in the making. Right now, at the end of 2017, the census is putting together their plans and strategies for the 2020 census. As part of those preparations, they are asking local governments to review and provide updates to their addresses in their communities. These are the addresses that will be used to determine who the census focuses on counting in 2020. For the most part, the current census addresses are based on the last census. So if your community has seen an influx of new homes or apartments or a reduction in homes or apartments, then the census may not have that information. As a state, we have a vested interest in making sure that everyone who lives in New York gets counted for New York. As counties, we have a vested interest in making sure that everyone who lives in our counties, in our towns, in our villages, in our cities gets counted. County leaders can help in this endeavor, and that's why we are hosting this webinar. We are here with representatives of the state of New York, the governor's office, and the Department of State, to be specific, and Cornell University to talk about ways that we can all be working together to make the 2020 census count for New York. With that, I would like to introduce our good friend and former Deputy County Executive from Erie County, Richard Tobey. Richard Tobey is the current Deputy Director of State Operations and is taking the lead on the LUCA and New York's participation in the 2020 census for the state. Richard is here to talk about the state's efforts to help achieve a full count in 2020.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm Richard Tobey. As Mark said, I'm working in the Executive Chamber for Governor Cuomo. And with me today is Michael Bob, who's from the Department of State, Elizabeth Burakowski and Matt Hinkin, who are working in the Executive Chamber with me. And also on the phone, and who'll be speaking in a few minutes, is Warren Brown from Cornell University. First, I want to start by thanking NYSAC, Mark and Steve Aquario and the others, for making this the joint partnership that it is. We share a common goal of a full count in New York State, and it's important to us all, sometimes in the exact same way, and sometimes in slightly different ways, but it's important to us all that every person in New York State on April 1st, 2020 get properly counted, and we get credit for their presence here in New York State. And so working with NYSAC, we've established a goal of 100% participation in LUCA, and then later in the enumeration process for all counties in New York State. And we're well along towards that. We'll get to a map in a little bit that shows where we stand today, but we're confident in the month that remains we'll be able to achieve even more. I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint, I hope. Whoops. Try that again. Jeanette, can you advance it? Yeah. Up there it goes. Yeah. Okay. So this slide begins the discussion, but what I want to do is to make sure that we leave plenty of time for your questions. I suspect you're beginning to hear this over and over, and if you have particular questions that we don't cover, please use this as an opportunity to ask them, but we also want to assure you that there will be other opportunities. But as you know, the census comes once every 10 years, and we live with the results for the full 10 years thereafter. Massive amounts of federal funding flow to us, to the state and our counties and the local governments. It's currently calculated over $53 billion a year in federal funding annually. That's what we get each year. It's a huge amount of money. Our influence in Congress is affected by the count, as is redistricting within the state. The districts for the state legislature, within each of our communities, the counties, and how that plays out. And it's important that we get a full count. But I think one of the reasons why the census is also so critical is that the count is used as a full-fledged planning tool Virtually every application we fill out for funding, virtually every major project starts with how many people, for highways, for schools, for bridges, and what the population trends are. So it actually, a good count leads to hopefully better decision-making and better participation in our roles. So for LUCA, I think most of you are aware of this now, but I'll take the opportunity to go over it very quickly. It's the local update of census addresses. It's the Census Bureau's offer to us to review and improve upon the addresses that they think exist in each of our communities and the state as a whole. They didn't always give us that opportunity, but they have for the last 2 or 3 censuses, and they establish a deadline for participation in LUCA, which is an opportunity for any local government in New York State to say they want to review the census addresses, the addresses that will get enumeration forms. That deadline is roughly a month away. It's December 15th. If you want to participate and help improve the count, add addresses that the census would otherwise miss, you have to sign up as a LUCA community. And that's what we're hoping all counties will do, and other local governments also. We will be working with you, and we'll talk about that in a bit, between now and February of next year. Starting in February of 2018, communities will begin to get the addresses that the census believes are in your community if you signed up for LUCA. And you then will have 120 days, only 120 days, to submit corrections that you wish to make. Because that time frame is really so short, we'll want to work with you now to prepare for that rush that will come February or later for some communities, but it still is only 120 days. So there are the deadlines. I'm sorry, I forgot to advance the slide. They trusted me with this. But those are the deadlines and the calendar. This next map was as of last week, and the yellow indicates that New York State itself has signed up for LUCA. I believe we're one of only 4 states that have done so. And the blue indicates the counties within New York State that have separately agreed to participate in LUCA. And then you can see we've got some adjoining states. But the blue are the counties that are now participating, and that yellow are the counties that have not yet signed up for LUCA. We hope all counties will do so before December 15th. New York City is a somewhat separate story. We're confident they will sign up and are working hard on the census. And they have a somewhat independent operation that we learned from, but which they will be running themselves. If you need information from the census, or you can't find your LUCA address, this slide, and that shows the telephone number and the email for the Census Bureau Help Desk. If you need your LUCA forms, sign-up forms, sent to you again, that's how to get them. I'll leave this up just for a minute so you can get the phone number. I'm not going to read it off, but hopefully you can all see it. And what this will allow you to do is quickly get the form. It's easy to sign up. We did it in New York State in about half an hour, I guess. And the key is that anyone who's going to receive these materials from the Census Bureau has to sign a confidentiality agreement. That's really all they're asking you to do, and to indicate that you wish to participate. But let me say this also. There's no obligation upon a county or any municipality that signs up to be a LUCA participant to do anything that you may want to later add addresses or make a submission, but you may choose not to. And there's no obligation upon you to move forward if you have not, even though you've signed up for LUCA. For some counties, others are going to be doing the submission or the work on their behalf, regional planning associations or perhaps others. But we're recommending that everybody sign up for LUCA because we don't know what the future may bring. You may have a startling discovery that some group of addresses, some trailer park or apartment building that's been converted from commercial, or a new subdivision just got missed by the federal government, and you may want to add it. And you may want to do that right at the last minute. If you don't sign up now, you'll miss the chance. So we have 38 counties as of last week that have signed of our 57 upstate or outside New York City, and we're going for all 57. We hope we'll achieve that goal. So Census Bureau Help Desk. So what happens afterwards, after LUCA? This is the part of the census that most people are aware of and think is the census, and it is, although there's more to it than just this. This is the population count. April 1st of 2020 is when the enumeration will officially kick off, although there will be some events before that. I expect that New York State will be forming a full count committee, and we're urging each local government to do so also, to form their own full count committees. As we've gotten around the state, we're learning of the challenges that exist. And what first came to my mind, and perhaps to others, was that recent immigrants may not want to participate in the census. They may not trust the confidentiality, they may not know what it's about, and some may be here without documentation. The census counts everybody, regardless of their legal status and regardless of the status of the residence in which they live. If they're living in an illegal conversion, they still get counted. If they're undocumented, they still get counted. And once the Census Bureau has that data, it's kept confidential by federal law. So we think there should be no impediment to participation, but many people now, not just those who have status issues, may be reluctant to participate. We were in a county last week that has a large Amish population. They have to take special efforts to support the Amish in signing up, because by and large the Amish will not be able to go online to sign up. There are Indian nations in New York State, of course, and there are special issues with them. And we also think that there, for the first time in memory, there may be significant populations who don't want to participate because they're unhappy with the federal government. There may be sportsmen who are worried about gun rights. There are other groups. And so we're asking each county to think about its own population and the own special groups that could be reached, and perhaps persuaded that it's in all of our best interest that they cooperate. And so we've got hard to count populations, and we've got populations that may not want to be counted. And we're asking each county to work on getting their special populations to choose to be counted, and to do that with your own efforts, just as the state will be doing it at its end. The state itself is going to be taking and has taken a number of initiatives to help with, I have to change slides again. Next slide. Yep, I got it. To help with the LUCA participation and then later with the count. With LUCA, we have a terrific partner in Cornell University and among a variety of state agencies. Cornell has, and Warren Brown, who will get on the phone, will talk more about this, has undertaken a process to review the number of residential units that we believe are in each census tract using state data or local data that the state has, then compare that to the count that the Census Bureau says is in each census block. This is not people, but residents. And then to do a discrepancy report that will show the census blocks where we think there are residential addresses to be found and submitted to LUCA. That process is well along, and we will be providing that to each local government, each county, to show where they might want to prioritize their efforts. Instead of just getting this mass for the whole community, for the whole county, we'll be able to prioritize on your behalf places that you may choose to look first. And then you work your way through the process. You may also have things that you know on your own, and of course you're free to do that also. You may know of things that are not there that we ourselves don't have either. We also are going to be offering, through Matt Hinken, who's here with me today, an Excelsior Fellow. These are students who have graduated from a graduate level program and are working for New York State as a fellow for a 2-year increment. And we will be assigning a fellow to each county that's a LUCA participant to be the interface on all census questions that you may want to direct to us. And then the fellows will either provide the answer or get them from the appropriate partner. And so that's some of the ways the state will be helping. We've got this interagency task force, and we will also be providing, as we are today, training and technical support through a variety of state agencies that can provide assistance, particularly ITS, which is responsible for the state's both GIS programs and our data in general. So a lot of this we think will be based on GIS information, including with some geocoding. So here are some information on how to contact Cornell and the Council on Children and Family Services. The Council on Children and Family Services is a state agency that has partnered with the Annie E. Casey Foundation and labor unions and others to help support a full count, and they're providing a lot of training and other programs which are available to you all. Okay, I believe that's my last slide. And I'm sorry, the Council on Children and Family Census information is here, and they're helping to run a campaign to say yes to LUCA. We also expect later in this process, going into next year and the year after 2020, when we get to early 2020, New York State will be running a full count commission, and we may also be able to provide some additional support to local governments, as we have in the past. And this is how to contact us. Oops. There we are. How to contact us, the New York State phone number and local government program, and Mike Bob very well may be the person who responds. With that, I'll stop and turn it over to Warren Brown from Cornell to run through in more detail the program that he's running, including on group quarters. So Warren, you're up.
One moment, we'll unmute Warren. Hello, Warren.
Hi. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Mark, and all my friends there in Albany. I'm Warren Brown, Director of Cornell's Program on Applied Demographics, and very pleased to be with you this afternoon. Two of the activities that are going to contribute toward a complete and accurate count of the resident population in New York State, its counties, its municipalities, and down to its neighborhoods, are, first of all, a complete and accurate list of the addresses where residents live. Second, motivating all residents to respond to the Census Bureau messages and to complete a census questionnaire completely and accurately. All right, you may have noticed that's the third time I used the phrase complete and accurate. That's kind of our buzz phrase. Most surveys, marketing efforts, and even election campaigns are thrilled to have reached 30%, 60%, or even 75% of their target audience. For the 2020 census, our goal is to count 100% of the people, and our challenge is to get there. What we're going to talk about in the next several minutes is that address list. If you don't have a complete address list of where to reach people, where they live, it's that much harder to reach them with the message and to get them to respond. So the governor's office asked us, the Cornell Program on Applied Demographics, to identify areas of the state where the Census Bureau's address list is missing living quarters, be they single-family homes, commercial buildings that have been converted to apartments and condominiums, or residential treatment centers. So we're striving to identify all locations where residents live. That is, where they lay down to sleep, not where they're a legal resident, not where their parents live, but where is the spot where they sleep most of the time? That's the Census Bureau definition of a resident. So the objective has been to point local governments to the areas within their jurisdiction where it appears the Census Bureau's address list has problems, so that local government can prepare their own detailed address lists and supporting documentation to supply to the Census Bureau during the LUCA address list review period, which, as we've been saying, is going to begin in February. February is getting here awfully quickly. The New York City Department of City Planning is conducting a similar effort for the city. The staff in the Population Division of the New York City Department of City Planning are nationally recognized experts in this effort, and we've benefited greatly from their advice and a review of our procedures. We've relied on two main sources of information: property tax records from the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services, and data from the Street Address Maintenance Program of the New York State GIS Program Office within ITS. And that Street and Address Maintenance Program is referred to by the acronym SAM. So later on when I say SAM, I mean the Street and Address Maintenance Program. Our colleagues in the GIS Program Office have also provided excellent advice to us, and we've worked closely with them in a collaborative manner. We're in the final phases of our analysis, and we'll soon be working with the governor's office to promote use of our findings and tools by local governments throughout the state. So last Wednesday, November 8th, Jan Vink, my colleague in the Cornell program on applied demographics, presented a detailed look at the work that has been underway. This is the title slide from the webinar that he presented. Jan demonstrated the web-based tools that he has developed to assist local governments in identifying areas where the count of housing units in the Census Bureau's address list differs from the count we developed using real property tax records and the SAM files. As Rich pointed out earlier, this webinar was part of a series of really excellent presentations produced by the Council on Children and Families, and I highly recommend that you take advantage of these presentations. Not only are they offered live, but as you can see on the slide, there's a listen button, so they've recorded them and you can catch them later. Here's the address, the web address for getting them, and I'm hoping that a copy of these slides will be available to all of you who wish to have a copy so that you can not have to scribble quickly these web addresses, but click on them at your leisure. All right, so the online tool we've developed, we're calling Nibbles, New York Block Browser LUCA Evaluation System. We invite you to check out the beta version, soon to be fully ready for prime time, along with a very friendly user guide that will take you through all the bells and whistles that have been built into this system. And you know, one of the reasons why we like Nibbles is that, as Rich said before, tackling a comprehensive address list for everywhere is a huge bite. What we are aiming to do is to reduce it to a series of nibbles for those areas that require the most attention. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Here I've got some data for Onondaga County, okay? So again, our main objective is to assist local governments in focusing their efforts on the areas where it appears the Census Bureau's address list is most deficient. The areas that Nibbles focuses on are called census blocks. That's the smallest level of census geography. So we're really honing in on very small, specific geographic areas. And here I'm using Onondaga County as an example. So the Census Bureau has divided Onondaga County into 9,890 blocks. Comparing our estimates of housing units to the Census Bureau address list, we've found 89 blocks in which there were 10 to 49 missing housing units. In other words, our count was 10 to 49 housing units greater than what the Census Bureau has in their preliminary LUCA files that were released in October. 20 additional blocks that had 50 to 99 housing units missing, and then 14 where it appears the Census Bureau is missing 100 or more housing units. So out of the 9,890 blocks, Nibbles has drawn the focus to 123 blocks with apparently substantial differences between the Census Bureau's LUCA counts and estimates based on real property tax records and the SAM files. All right, let's hone in a little greater. The census block with the largest discrepancy is a block in the town of Clay. And here I've provided the block ID number, which is a rather long series of digits, tract, block group, block. The Census Bureau's 2017 LUCA summary file reports 46 housing units. You see that number, 46. In 2010, the census did not count any housing units in that area. So this is, in all likelihood, an area of recent development. And the Census Bureau list has 46. There's no group quarters there, no nursing home, no college dormitories. But the Real Property Tax Service, our estimates based on that information are that there are currently 425 housing units in that block. All right. What more can we know about that block? Well, Nibbles links to more detailed information for the block that has garnered your attention and the one here that we're investigating. It can take you to an aerial view of the block. Here we see that an apartment complex, Rivers Point Apartments, is in that block. And this is apparently the series of apartments that the Census Bureau has yet to add to their address list. Nibbles also provides detailed information for individual parcels in the census block. So now we're down to the individual tax parcel. Here are details for the tax parcel in which the Rivers Point Apartments are located. There are 416 apartments. If you can see along that top line summarizing residential units, 416. The property class in the property tax system, 411, is for apartments. There are 416 apartments made up of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. In order for Onondaga County or the town of Clay in the LUCA review to add these units to the LUCA files, if they're still missing in February, and I want to add that the Census Bureau is continuing to work to integrate into their database information that they're getting from the Postal Service and other sources. But we would definitely, given this information as of October, we would definitely want to have complete address information for all of these apartments so that we would be ready to add it in February. If they're still missing when the review of individual addresses begins, it's necessary to provide separate mailing addresses for each of the apartments. It's not enough to say, hey, within this parcel or within this block, there are 416 apartments. You have to have individual addresses. Now, the SAM system, working with the counties, has developed a lot of that detailed information. You can see that here there's a series of individual street addresses followed by an apartment number. That's the kind of information that you're going to need. Nibbles tells us, drawing information out of the SAM files, that there are 63 addresses. So the information that has been provided to the state GIS office and incorporated into SAM is not complete either. It's going to be necessary, again, for the county or the town to collect the addresses for the remaining approximately 350 units. But we've shown you exactly the block and even the parcel where to go to collect that information where you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. So the Nibbles online tool will serve to focus attention on those areas within the county that need the most attention and help to allocate scarce resources. Getting ready before February would be a wonderful activity to engage in. Again, we invite you to begin exploring Nibbles. Here is the web address, and wouldn't you know it, today the Cornell servers have a hiccup. They go down maybe once or twice a year, and they decided to go down today unexpectedly. So if you go to that address, it might not work today, but I am hoping and can assure you it will be back up soon. That's all that I have about our tools, and we look forward to working with our partners in the state to get this into the hands of local governments.
Hi, this is Mark Levine, again, with the New York State Association of Counties. We have a couple of questions that have come in, and I would like to remind the participants on this webinar that if you have a question, please write it in, and we will take it up as they come in. The first question is for either, I guess, the state, Richard Tobey. What is the deadline, again, for a county to register for the LUCA?
Thanks, Mark, and thank you, Warren. The deadline to register for LUCA is December 15th of this year, 2017. December 15th. Please don't miss the date.
Okay, and this is a follow-up on that. We just had an election. What happens for counties who might have a change of leadership as a result of the recent election in terms of registering by December 15th and then having a new leadership come in and take over in January?
Well, obviously, we hope all counties will sign up by the December 15th deadline. That means those county leaders who are going to continue in office this year and into next, and those who will not for whatever reason. I think the important thing to note is that even if a county leader will not be in office come January of 2018 or February when the LUCA files come in, they're not unfairly obligating their successors to undertake an action by signing up for LUCA. They're just giving them the opportunity to do so. And then the successor can decide what to do. But if they don't sign up by December 15th, the successor would not have that chance to exercise their own best judgment as the new county leader. So we certainly hope all counties, regardless of their circumstance, will sign up, and those who are continuing in office will then follow up, and those who are not will give their successors an opportunity.
Okay, so who needs to sign the form, the LUCA form, or the confidentiality? When you're signing up for to participate in LUCA, who needs to sign the forms?
It's different among the different counties. It really depends upon their own internal structure and legal authority. So in my county, Erie County, it would be the county executive, or under our charter, the deputy county executive, who could also sign on behalf of the county executive. But the Census Bureau sent the official form in most instances to whoever they believed was the county leader, the chief political officer of the county. Sometimes they may have gone to the county administrator, but it would be up to each county to know for itself who's authorized to sign on its behalf, but they're expecting somebody who can sign on behalf of the county, whatever its own structure is.
Okay, great.
Yes, and
who needs to sign the confidentiality form?
Oh, okay. So there's a follow-up. I'm not sure everybody heard it, but who has to sign the confidentiality form? And I'm going to ask Liz Burakowski to give that exact answer.
The confidentiality forms that are included in the packet require that everyone who's going to review the data that comes from the Census Bureau has to sign the confidentiality section and agree to keep confidential that information. So it should be anyone who you think might come in contact with the data. And if you do end up submitting your LUCA packet and later realize that you're bringing on someone else to help with that data review, you can always submit a revised confidentiality form. So when in doubt, sign up more people than you might be certain are going to be reviewers. And if you have a consultant or an outside entity that's going to be helping you, you should have them sign it as well. For instance, for New York State, Cornell signed our confidentiality documents as well, since we knew they would be reviewing some data on behalf of the state.
Liz, can you identify some departments or positions at the county level that may be looking at this type of data? Do they have information on addresses?
Sure. I would expect that if you have a GIS department, the GIS people would look at it. Perhaps planning department folks, perhaps someone in your executive office might look at it eventually. Economic development folks, anyone who you think might have access to administrative records about it. So you might have your real property tax people. You might have your permits folks. So again, when in doubt, be more inclusive.
Great. In 2010, the New York State Department of State offered some grant assistance to local governments participating in the LUCA. Will it do so again this year?
We're looking at that now, and it will be decided in the upcoming budget when the Governor Cuomo submits the budget and the legislature acts on it. There's some legislation in the last session that originated in the legislature that recommended funding. And we will see. I can't make a commitment today, but I wouldn't rule it out either. That I think was very useful in the past, and we're exploring how it was used last time to determine if we should do it again this year. Okay.
And Rich, I think this is also for you. You had mentioned that there would be an Excelsior Fellow assigned to each county that signs up or registers for the LUCA. When will counties that sign up for LUCA get the name and contact information of their Excelsior Fellow?
Hi, this is Matt Hinken. I'm coordinating some of those Excelsior Fellows who will be helping out with the counties. We're hoping to get those names to everyone soon. We're planning to send a letter out around Thanksgiving time that will give you the name of that person who's been assigned to help your county out, and also some information about the Cornell data that's been explained and some of the other resources that we're putting together to help the counties. Like I said, we're hoping to get that out around Thanksgiving, and then that person should be in contact with you in early December. However, the letter will have their contact information as well, so if you get it first and you're just really excited to get started, feel free to reach out to them. And that one person will help you throughout the entirety of the LUCA process through the submission next year. So get to know them. Whoever's really coordinating your LUCA submission should be in contact with them regularly, and they'll help you along the way. They'll remind you of deadlines. They'll put you in contact with folks who can help with more technical questions. They'll really do anything you need of them, so don't be afraid to ask them questions and be in contact with them regularly.
This question is for Warren Brown. The Cornell information looks great. When, again, will it be available? When will we get access to this information?
So we are committed to finalizing the product by Thanksgiving, and the plan is to roll it out immediately after Thanksgiving. You can, as I said, it's in beta version now. If you're brave and you don't need a lot of hand-holding, go to that website and start checking it out.
Okay, thank you very much, Warren Brown from Cornell University. We appreciate your efforts for LUCA in the census. Richard Tobey and the team from the New York State Department of State, thank you very much for your time and attention today. Again, Richard mentioned that our goal is to get 57 of the 57 upstate counties to participate in LUCA. So we will be working to sign those counties up who have not yet signed up. And we are at 34 of 57, so 38 of 57. See, so we're already making progress. 19 to go. We will be, if not NYSAC, then the Department of State will be reaching out to the counties who have not yet participated between now and the end of November to get a December 15th 100% participation all locked up. So thank you again on behalf of NYSAC, on behalf of the state of New York and Cornell University for taking the time to spend with us today for this webinar, and have a